today's presentation. This meeting will be recorded, so you can always watch it later if you miss something or send it to your neighbors if they were not able to attend. So welcome everyone to this virtual community meeting regarding Riverside Street Improvements Project. My name is Justina Simon. I am a project manager with the City of Fort Worth's Transportation and Public Works Department. We also have present on this call city staff, the design engineer, and the contractor. We also have Councilwoman Martinez on the call. Councilwoman, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Justina. No, well, just really quick. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join tonight's meeting. I'm here, like everyone else, to learn more about this project in Riverside, and we'll also be sharing the recording on our social media platforms in our November newsletter. So I'll pass it back to you, Justina.
Thank you. So during this presentation, I'll be giving you an overview of the project as a whole, providing a summary of the improvements on each street in the project, providing some information about the construction, and discussing the expected schedule moving forward. At the end, we'll open up for questions and community input. If you think of any questions during the meeting, please feel free to post them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So this project has two funding sources. The first is the 2022 bond, which the residents of Fort Worth voted on. So the streets that are funded by the bond, they will have full pavement reconstruction, as well as new curb and gutter, driveways, and sidewalks where it's feasible. And the streets that are funded by the bond are Blandon Street from Bird Street to McLemore Avenue, Dell Street from Blandon Street to North Chandler Drive, Plumwood Street from North Chandler Drive to North Riverside Drive, Grapewood Street from North Chandler Drive to North Riverside Drive, and Clarence Street from Airport Freeway to Wheeler Street. The second source of funding is the water department. So these streets will have asphalt reconstruction and the curb, gutter, sidewalk, and driveways will be replaced as needed. So the streets that are funded by the water department are Fox Drive from Shadow Lane to Kings Highway, Shadow Lane from Wheeler Street to Airport Freeway, Wayne Street from Wheeler Street to Airport Freeway, Oak Knoll Drive from Wheeler Street to Airport Freeway, and Airport Freeway from Shadow Lane to Oak Knoll Drive. So in the next few slides, I'll discuss the existing conditions that are present on the streets, and then we'll go into more detail about the scope of each one. So on this slide, you can see similar conditions of deteriorated asphalt pavement. We have Plumwood Street, Grapewood Street, Dell Street, and Clarence Street. And then next we'll be going over what we're going to be doing to make these streets better. So on Blandon Street, the first one, for the water and sewer improvements, we're upgrading the existing 6-inch water to 8-inch. And then for a portion of Blandon Street, north of Dell, we're going to be relocating the existing 6-inch, which is in the alley, to the street and upgrading it to an 8-inch. For the paving improvements, we'll be doing new concrete pavement with concrete curbs, new concrete driveways with 11-foot minimum width or match existing, and new 5-foot sidewalk on limited portions of both sides of the street. On Dell Street, from Blandon Street to North Chandler Drive, for the water and sewer improvements, we're relocating the existing 6-inch in the alley to the street and upgrading it to an 8-inch. So if you live on Dell or that portion of Blandon, we're going to be relocating the sewer service from your backyard and rerouting it into the street. So you should have received a letter in the mail asking your permission for the contractor to work on your property. And then for the paving improvements, there'll be new concrete pavement with concrete curbs, new concrete driveways with 11-foot minimum width, and new 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street. Plumwood Street and Grapewood Street from North Chandler Drive to North Riverside Drive. On both streets, we're upgrading the existing 6-inch water and sewer to 8-inch. We're installing new concrete pavement with concrete curbs, new concrete driveways with 11-foot minimum width. And then on Grapewood, we're installing new 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street. And on Plumwood, the new sidewalk is just on the south side of the street. So on Clarence Street, from Wheeler Street to Airport Freeway, we're upgrading the existing 6-inch water and sewer to 8-inch. For the paving improvements, we're installing new concrete pavement with concrete curbs, new concrete driveways with 11-foot minimum width, and new 5-foot sidewalk on the east side of the street. Next was Fox Drive from Shadow Lane to Kings Highway. So the water and sewer improvements will be upgrading the existing 6-inch water and sewer to 8-inch. And for the paving improvements, there'll be new asphalt pavement. So the next few streets are the ones funded by the water department rather than bond. Next, we have Shadow Lane, Wayne Street, and Oak Knoll Drive. The limits for all of these, Wheeler Street to Airport Freeway. For the water and sewer improvements, we're upgrading the existing 6-inch water and sewer to 8-inch, and we're installing new asphalt pavement. And lastly, we have Airport Freeway from Shadow Lane to Oak Knoll Drive. We're upgrading the existing 6-inch water and sewer to 8-inch, and there's no paving improvements on this one because the water and sewer are in the parkway, they're not in the street. So on the next few slides, we'll be going over some construction information and frequently asked questions. So why are we doing this project? As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this project is partially funded by the 2022 bond, which the residents of Fort Worth voted on, which targets locations in the city that need street improvements. And then TPW partnered with the water department to also replace underground utilities in that area that need improvement. So how will we know construction is starting? You'll get 2 door hangers. The first one will be a week before construction starts, and it looks like the one on the slide. And the second one will be the day before construction starts. So will our water be turned off? There are 2 instances when your water will be turned off. The first is when the service is transferred from the existing line to the temporary line, and the second is when it's transferred from the temporary line to the new line. And in both instances, you'll be given notice before that happens. How does the temporary line impact my home and water bill? So the temporary line is to make sure that you don't go without water during the construction, and you're going to be billed based on your previous usage. Do you replace the water service line up to my house? So we replace the water service line from the main line in the street until your property line, and we'll also replace the water meter. Why is there water running down the street? So the contractor has to flush the line and test it to make sure that there's no contaminants and that we have clean water running through the pipes and going to your houses. Will you need access to our property? So as I mentioned earlier, if you're serviced by the sewer line that's in the alley of Dell, then the contractor will need access to your property, and you should have received a letter in the mail stating so. Otherwise, if you are any of the rest of the streets, if we need access to your property, we'll contact you. Will our sewer service be disrupted? No, your sewer service will not be interrupted. Will the construction affect my irrigation? So the contractor is going to cap the irrigation lines before they start working, and they may ask you to turn on your irrigation system so they can locate and flag the sprinkler heads so they know where they are while they're working. Are we getting new curb, gutter, and sidewalks? So as I mentioned earlier, concrete curbs will be replaced on the bond-funded streets, and then limited portions of the existing curb and gutter will be replaced on the water department-funded streets. If your driveway is being replaced, the city will only replace the portion that's in the city right-of-way, not all the way to your garage. Will I be able to access my driveway? So there are 2 instances when you won't be able to access your driveway. The first is when pavement is being placed directly in front of your property. And the second is when your driveway is being replaced. And you'll get heads up before this happens so you can make arrangements. What happens if my property is damaged? So the contractor will take pictures and videos of the property before construction, and we also encourage you to do the same. If there's any damage caused by the contractor, they will be responsible for it. Will there be lane closures during construction? So there will be lane closures when the contractor is installing the water and sewer lines and when they are paving, and there's going to be signs posted during those times. Will the city's trash truck be able to pick up my trash and recycling during construction? So if your side of the street is closed on trash day, then the contractor will take your trash and recycling carts to the other side so they can be picked up. How do I report an emergency or non-emergency? So the emergency line is available 24 hours a day, and the number is listed on this slide. For non-emergencies, you can use the water call center, which is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, except for city holidays. There's also the option of using the My Fort Worth app, which allows you to upload pictures and a description of what's going on, and then you can view the status in the app as well. So next we'll go over the construction phasing and schedule for this project. So this slide shows the typical construction process. The utilities are installed first, along with the new service connections to each lot. And then once that's completed, temporary pavement is put in place so you can drive on the road while you're waiting for the paving to begin. For the streets that are concrete, which for this project, that's Blandon Street, Dell Street, Grapewood Street, Plumwood, and Clarence. These pictures give you an idea of what construction will look like. So first, the curb, driveways, and pavement are all removed, and then the pavement and the curb are installed together, and then finally the driveways are installed. For the asphalt streets, which will be Fox Drive, Shadow Lane, Wayne Street, and Oak Knoll Drive, these pictures give you an idea of what that construction will look like. So first, the existing curb and driveways are removed and replaced, and then once that's complete, the existing street is demoed and the new asphalt street is installed. After construction is complete, this is what you have to look forward to. So here we have pictures of new concrete and asphalt streets with new curb and gutter. And this is what the new concrete driveways, sidewalks, and pedestrian ramp crossings would look like. So this slide shows the anticipated construction schedule for the utility improvements on each street. So that's the water and sewer. So we're starting construction October 27th of this year. So first they'll start with this utilities in Dell Street and Blandon Street, which will go from October 2025 to April 2026. Then Plumwood Street will go from January 2026 to February. Grapewood Street from February to March 2026. Shadow Lane from March to May 2026, Wayne Street from May to July 2026, Clarence Street from May to June 2026, Oak Knoll Drive from June to July 2026, Airport Freeway from July to August 2026. So then is the paving improvements. So the paving improvements are grouped together by location. So for the area that has Plumwood Street, Grapewood Street, Dell Street, and Blandon Street, those paving improvements will be between May 2026 to February 2027. And then the area that includes Shadow Lane, Wayne Street, Clarence Street, and Oak Knoll Drive, and Fox Drive, I missed that, will be from July 2026 to February 2027. And then we'll finish construction February 2027. So where can I get more information? If you want to stay updated on this project, you have a few options. You can use the first link on this slide, which we'll send in the chat as well, and that'll take you to the project webpage, and that webpage is going to contain updated information throughout the course of the project. You can also go to the Fort Worth website, www.fortworthtexas.gov, and if you enter 104317 in the search bar, then that'll also direct you to that same project webpage. So we're going to go ahead and open this meeting for questions or comments.
Okay, so at this time, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, you can do so, or alternatively, please put your question in the chat and we will read them and answer them in the order that they appear. I do already see one question from Ms. Martinez. Will this presentation be available in the project page? Yes, we will make sure that this presentation gets uploaded to the project's website. And also, I did paste in the link to the city's or to the project website for this project on the city's webpage. So if you didn't happen to write it down earlier, you can just click the link that I put in the chat. Okay, I have a couple questions in the chat here. The first one is, when they construct the driveways, how long will it last? So I believe we have, Dan, are you on the call where you can answer about how long it will take when to reconstruct a driveway?
We can't hear you.
I believe I saw Dan McClendon, the contractor, on the call.
Yeah, he's talking, but I can't hear him.
Okay, well, in the meantime, we will go to the next question that I see in the chat. The next question is, will the Blandon construction start at Macklemore or Bird Street? Okay, just to go back to the previous question about the driveways, I see Dan McLennan, he's the contractor for this contract. He did post that driveways will need to be closed for approximately 7 days after the concrete is poured. That's about how long it takes for the concrete to cure to be a solid drivable surface. The other question, we'll go back to it. Will Blandon construction start at Macklemore or Bird Street? I don't think that is probably not known at this time which direction they're going to go, unless Dan, you can correct me. Okay, yeah, they just know the general time when they will be at Blandon Street, but I don't see they don't know at this time which direction they're going to start from.
Christian, I just want to add that they will be notified before Dan and his group gets there.
Yes, okay, thank you, Don. Yes. And also want to mention, just to follow up to Ms. Martinez's question about the presentation being available on the project page. So yes, the presentation will be there, but also a link to this video itself will be there. So if you want to send the presentation, the actual video presentation to a neighbor or a friend that may also be affected, you can do that as well. Okay, I see another question in the chat. It says, will draining water to check the water quality cause flooding or environmental damage to yards? No, there should not be enough water being drained from the pipe or being let out from the pipe to overtop the existing gutters. So no, it shouldn't cause any damage to any flooding or damage to your yards. Okay, the next question, will we be able to park in front of our house when the driveway is closed? My wife is disabled and can't walk a long distance at all. Okay, so this is another question I'll let Dan answer, but I believe that whenever they are replacing the driveways themselves, the actual street paving, if it's concrete, then the street paving will be done.
Yeah, Greg, Dan responded in the chat and he said you'll be able to park in front of the house while the driveway is being constructed. The road is paved in halves, but the driveway work begins after both sides are constructed.
Okay, and also see he said they do make special accommodations for people with mobility issues. Yes, if you do need a special accommodation, please reach out to Justina and we will talk with the contractor and we will do our best to accommodate you. Okay, I do see another question. I think I missed earlier. It says, I live on the corner of Dell and Blandon. Can I add an approach going to my backyard? I think we need to see your law in particular. Can you please reach out directly to Justina about that? And she's going to put, I think her email address and phone number is on here. So if you could reach out to her directly regarding that. Okay, I see Dan also provided some additional information regarding that, additional approaches or extra widths to driveways. And I'll just read it in case anybody can't see the chat. He said, for any additional approaches or extra width, please see our workers on the job site and a supervisor will outline this process for you. We try to address these additions one-to-one on site to avoid confusion. Thank you, Dan.
And Christian, I also want to add, guys, if you need any kind of representation from the city, the inspector, Adrian Aranda will be there, and that's his number, so you can take it down. And he would also be in contact with me if you need to speak with anybody else, because he's out there every day. He will be out there every day.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, the inspector will be your first point of contact. He'll be on site. You'll see him around. You will see him in his truck. So you can flag him down and ask him any questions you may want. Okay, there's another question in here. It says, are they replacing telephone poles? So the telephone poles on site are owned by the franchise utilities, including Encore and AT&T and those companies. So we won't be replacing any telephone poles as part of our project. And just to jump back quickly to the question about the additional driveways and approaches. So the city, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear. So the city is going to pay for driveway approaches that match the existing width of what you currently have out there, or meet our minimum widths. So our minimum widths are either 11 feet for a single driveway or 18 feet for a double driveway. Anything beyond that or outside of that, or an additional driveway that doesn't currently exist, would be something that you could talk with the contractor about, or make a deal with the contractor for, but that wouldn't be something that the city would be paying for. It would only be replacing your existing driveways up to the property line, as Justina said in her presentation. Just a little clarify that. Are there any further questions? Like I said, feel free to unmute yourself if you would prefer to ask a question that way, or place the question in the chat. And also let us know if there's any slides that you would like Justina to go back to if you need to see anything else again.
Just as a test, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Dan.
I never get this right on these WebEx meetings. Every other platform seems to work, but my computer decided to attach itself to a non-existent microphone. So I figured it out, but unfortunately too late.
That's all good.